Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Barbells and Banter podcast. This is episode 13, and we're with our very own NIPF CEO, Josh Bell.
How's it going? Hopefully it's being episode 13. Hopefully that's not an unlucky number. So, we'll see how it goes, but fingers crossed. So
We're
thanks for
recording
having
this
me.
on a Friday as well. Uh, yeah, I prepared a few questions, then we're gonna listen to Josh's hot takes and go through some Instagram questions we got left on a sticker we put up on the story the other day. And yeah, it should be a pretty interesting episode, I'd say. I've been looking forward to this all day.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. So we'll jump right into the first question. What are the biggest challenges of running the NIPF, and what do lifters not see happening behind the scenes?
Uh, Big challenges of running the NIPF. Probably the thing which people don't see is all the logistics that happen in the background. So
Yeah,
there's, you know, like in the committee, we're constantly going back and forth every day, talking about stuff, issues that are happening or things we need to organize. Today we're talking about organizing vans and lifting equipment and moving it from one gym to the next for a competition. We're talking about moving the platform um, from Larne to get it down to Lurgan. Organizing all that. There's a lot of stuff. Members of the committee who just like, they've got families, they've got work commitments, all that kind of stuff, but they have to take time to go and move the stuff around. And a lot of people just kind of rock up to a competition and just go, "Oh, this is all ready to go." But actually, it's
yeah,
taken hours and hours and hours of work in order to get it to that place. And we have what, maybe 8 or 9 competitions a year, and so that's like usually at least once a month you're, doing multiple hours of work,
yeah,
um, you know, to do all that. And then you look at things like all the international competitions we're doing. We've got small nations, we've got home nations, we've got Commonwealth this year, like all the organization that goes into that. Daniel Allen organizing like, scores and like getting people selected. Then you've got all the like organizing people with their anti-doping certificates and
yeah,
it's like a ton of stuff like logistics and organization that goes on in the background, and that's probably the most difficult part, getting all that done and trying to fit it in with your own training, your own commitments and all that kind of stuff. And I think that that's what people don't appreciate. There's so much work goes on in the background, but ultimately, like whenever you get to the comp and you see people and they're screaming their heads off and they're enjoying themselves and they're having a great time, like it is all worth it. And I think that's why we all are willing to put in the hard graft. So
yeah.
yeah.
No, because I think I fell into the trap of not noticing that because I was under the impression that all the gyms had a platform, which I think some of them do. Uh, but then around the time nationals come around, I think it was I want to say the Friday night. Uh, Denise and Colin came to my gym, and we all helped out to move the platform and all the plates and a few racks and stuff for nationals because it was at a venue, not a gym. So sure,
Mhm.
there was obviously no racks there already and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's whenever I kind of realized this is them taking time out of their day, and I want to say unpaid
Yep.
volunteering.
Yep.
Yeah,
All the stuff that the committee does is completely unpaid. We don't get expenses for it. We don't take fuel for traveling around and doing stuff. We just do it for the love of the game.
yeah. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah. So and
Yeah,
it is like, I've been doing this sport I've only been doing it for like 5 or 6 years, but actually it's become a really central part of my life. And it's just something that I guess I've grown to, meet new people and kind of like get good friends with, like because of it and stuff. So, um, I guess it's like if I wasn't doing this, I don't know what I'd be doing.
yeah.
Um, so
Well,
yeah.
picture that from me, but for the last year, I'd say.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, can't really say the same to the same extent, but yeah. On to the next question. Where do you see the Federation growing fastest?
The Federation growing fastest. So I was actually taking a look about something about this. during the week, and it's actually growth on the female side of the sport. We are seeing a lot more growth on the female side. It's great to see. We've got a few more. I'm going to plug the equip lifting. We've got a few more female equip lifters coming in. But
Uh,
we've also got, obviously there's a big discrepancy. It's very much a male dominated sport, but
yeah,
actually the number of female lifters coming up, and especially, sub junior and junior female lifters, kind of coming in at that top end of the pipeline is really good to see as well.
yeah,
And you are starting to see a lot more balance in terms of the numbers of people competing, numbers of memberships, all that kind of stuff. And it's really encouraging to see just that kind of growth because, as I say, look, it's a male dominated sport. And
yeah,
actually, you see a lot more women coming into strength sports in general, coming into the gym, taking up, strength based training for, health and fitness and recreation. So it's really encouraging to see that.
yeah. Uh, no, I'm happy enough to see like anybody join the sport, and then especially like a lot of women at the moment, like nowadays, and like you see a lot of content online about uh certain myths like toning the muscle and doing cardio and stuff to not get bulky and stuff like that, and then seeing women in strength sports are growing is something I like to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see all this stuff about lifelong, kind of investment in sport and in your
Yeah,
health. And it is very much, you see people coming in not just at that, kind of early age group, but actually, loads of people coming in their masters, kind of, age category. And I remember whenever we were in South Africa, meeting this woman in the airport from Trinidad and Tobago, and she took up the sport when she was like 68, and she was now like in her 70s, and she was a world champion and world record holder and all this kind of stuff. And it's like
yeah,
she was she was in her 70s, and she was so sprightly, just like you would have thought, nah, you're at most in your 50s. So it's like this is a sport where actually, if you treat it like a marathon. Don't treat it like a sprint. You want to be healthy, all your life. And actually, strength sports is a great way to do it.
yeah. Because I did BTEC sport, and a lot of the course was, or like a good chunk of the course was to do with like osteoporosis and osteoarthritis and stuff like that, and then obviously prevention of that through strength sports and like bone health and stuff like that is good later on in life. Correct
Mhm.
me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I think that's the
yeah,
something
no,
like that.
absolutely. Because there's all that stuff about if you have a fall when you're older and you've got better bone density and muscle tone, then you'll actually recover faster from it.
Yeah,
From your injuries, um, all that kind of stuff. I remember it's probably a couple of years ago. I had really really bad like knee injuries, and there was a period for about 2 months where I genuinely could barely walk up my stairs in my house, and like doing the rehab and that kind of stuff was, um, you know, like so important, and kind of building up with little bits of actual strength and resistance work, helped me recover way faster. So, there's real scientific basis for actually how beneficial it is, and I think people are really starting to wake up to just how beneficial it can be.
yeah. I've even seen through the week that like a lot of a good part of this week has just been about like how movement instead of rest is better for recovery in most cases. Uh,
Mhm.
because I was training on Monday and had a little like I wouldn't even say a glute injury scare, but like I genuinely thought I'd strained my glute or something while training, and then after getting because I've upped my steps all throughout this week, and then since then it's just progressively gotten better because of that amount of steps that I've done, or like that amount of movement that I've kept my body in, and
Mhm.
even that sort of recovery has just become more of a like more of a thing to me rather than just
Mhm.
sitting and resting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, there's all the other stuff that goes along with it, like because once you get into the sport, you're kind of like, right, I need to optimize my eating and my sleeping, make sure I'm getting enough calories and balancing my macros out and that kind of stuff. And it's like all that stuff's really important, but actually, yeah, you know, doing that, recovering properly, stretching, bit of active recovery, occasionally a sports massage here and there, and even just generally things like actually the mental health benefits it can bring too.
Yeah,
Um, because in my real life job, I'm sitting at a desk all day, I'm typing on a computer, and so actually being able to like go and stretch at the gym and do all that kind of additional work actually just is really beneficial because it gets me away from sitting hunkered over a laptop all day. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Uh, what technological mistakes do powerlifting federations commonly make?
Um, Technological. So, yeah, as people probably know, I'm usually found at a competition running around fixing all the technology, you know, doing stuff on laptops or, you know, sorting out lifting cast or whatever it is. And I think probably some of the mistakes that people make is, do you know what? You don't have to have a massive budget in order to actually make things look good. Um, like I know that I pester Anthony all the time for, hey, can we get a wee bit of money to buy this new thing or do whatever? And I try to like temper my expectations, but actually, like for spending not very much amount of money, we've actually done really well with what we can. Um, you know, I think you look at what we do with our live stream and the setup at nationals and all that kind of stuff. And actually, do you know what? On a pretty small budget, we've been able to do quite well. All you really need, actually, the hardest part is getting volunteers and getting people to come and like run the technology and you know, run a good competition.
Yeah,
But yeah, I think the technological mistakes is actually not realizing you can keep on advancing and you can keep on pushing your like production quality and the the production values of what you can do with a small amount of tech and a small budget.
yeah. It helps save a lot of money as well to put into
Yeah,
other places too. Uh, this kind of jumps straight to equipped lifting. Why has
good,
equipped
good.
lifting declined compared to raw lifting, and what's the biggest misconception raw lifters have about equipped competition?
So equipped lifting. So I don't know whether, you said you've only been in the sport for about a year. I don't know
Yeah,
whether you know much about the history of powerlifting and kind of where it came from.
do you want me to say what I do know?
Yes, go ahead. I'm really interested to hear this.
I'm probably gonna get called out by an IPS Sentinel, but here we go. Uh, I know that raw powerlifting like wasn't really big thing until about 2010, 2012, and around that area, and then raw lifting's just been on the rise since then. And I know that equipped lifting's been around for way longer,
Yeah.
but
Mhm.
I don't know exact time dates. I just know it's
Yeah.
been around for way longer.
Yeah. So I mean, like powerlifting used to only be equipped. And then, you know, because it used to be that people didn't really have a whole lot of like social media. They didn't have online coaches. They didn't have all that kind of stuff. And so the only way to do powerlifting was actually you go to a gym, you get around with a big group of other, massive dudes who just want to lift some heavy weight. And people were doing things like they had these. So rather than knee wraps, they had what are called ACE bandages. So they had these like really stretchy, bandages for knee wraps, effectively. And they experimented with loads of different types of materials for like bench shirts and squat suits and all this kind of stuff. And so it kind of powerlifting grew out of there. Then you got into people who weren't able to, you know, they didn't have a big crew of people who, didn't have a community who would be able to help them with their knee wraps or help them spot. So actually they needed to be able to be a bit more self-sufficient. And so you find that some people were, not putting on the knee wraps or not putting on assists and just lifting completely raw. Um, and then yeah, they just were training on their own a bit more. Maybe using like safety bars and all that kind of stuff in racks. And so that's where the birth of raw really came out. And it was that kind of change from how communities of lifters train together. You had people who were maybe training in their home gym who didn't have like a group of people who could come together. And so that's kind of what we've seen, I think, over the last, especially decade. You look at COVID where people had to train on their own. They couldn't, train in groups of
Yeah,
people, just for like disease prevention and then transmission and that kind of stuff. And even then, the growth of social media, you have people who do a lot more, um, you know, online coaching. They send videos to their coaches rather than actually having a coach in the room to give them direct feedback then and there. And that's why, because you don't have as many people to support you, people find it easier to just lift raw because you can be a bit more self-sufficient. And so that's where I think you know, equip lifting is about 5% of not just NIPF, but like BP and actually across the world. You really only have about 5% of people who participate in powerlifting who are equipped. And so, yeah, I think that's what we've seen. It's this kind of rise of people training less in communities and less in dedicated gyms. And yes, people still come to dedicated gyms, but you have people who will train maybe on their own. They'll bounce from gym to gym. They maybe don't have as many, like a dedicated squad. Which is why I think there's some gyms that have those really, really strong communities, which is why it's easier for them to get involved in equip lifting. Because you maybe have one or two people and then they start, pulling their friends and that kind of stuff into it.
yeah,
Um, and I think that's why that community aspect, that's why you have all the psychos who kind of band together to do the equip stuff because, they're just, you do have to be a wee bit mental to try it.
yeah,
Because it's like who wants to go 125% of your raw max just by putting a few big elastic bands around your knees type thing. So
yeah,
it's good fun, but I think that's where you need a really, really good strong community of people around you to actually help you, and even especially the experience of understanding like how to manipulate the equipment and that kind of stuff. Whereas actually with raw you can just kind of grind through it a little bit. You can have some crappy technique and get away with it. Whereas in equipped, it'll just eat you up and spit you out if you don't kind of have a little bit of experience or somebody showing you the ropes a little bit. So I think that's the where equipped needs a little bit more than just raw, where you can be a bit more self-sufficient with it.
yeah. I think as well, like with the community aspect, like I remember, I think it was whenever I was handling at the March Classic. I was handling Peter and Adam, but that's besides the point. I think you were handling Matthew. I think
Yeah,
this was the Saturday, and there was like three or four yous trying to get him into a squat suit. And like as a raw lifter looking at that from the outside, you're kind of wondering like what are these guys doing? And
yeah,
like now I know it's like I already knew that it was like really tight squat suit, and that you needed multiple people to get it on. Because I also sort of put together in my mind that say the rule where say you have really tight knee sleeves and you're not allowed them if you need a lot of assistance to get them on and off. I sort of put that into the equipped context. You need people to get stuff on
yeah,
and off.
yeah.
But
No, but you do need, two or three people at least to get you
yeah,
into the equipment. And if you're looking on, it just looks, you're like, that does not look comfortable. Um,
no.
but it just looks funny, and I'm sure that Jack and Cameron have a few photos from that competition of us trying to get Matthew into his equipment, and yeah, it's
Oh,
a sight.
I remember watching it like in person. It's just hilarious. Oh, we'll move on to the next one. For someone who's never tried it, what does squatting in a suit for the first time actually feel like?
I think the first time I got into a squat fit and knee wraps, um, so shout out Mike Gibson, who is one of the equipped legends in the NIPF. He did my knee wraps, and like Mike, he just absolutely went for it. Like he wrapped my knees, like my life depended on it, and so it feels very much like So whenever you go under a heavy bar, like a heavy squat, in raw, and you're like, man, this feels really heavy on my
Yeah,
back. It's kind of like the equipment kind of disperses the pressure across your entire body. So you're like, this just feels heavy across my whole body. So
yeah,
it's not too bad because you're like actually it's not like, oh, this is really heavy in one specific place. It's actually just heavy everywhere. So it's actually a
yeah,
bit more mentally manageable. But you do find that like whenever you're sinking down into the hole, your your blood pressure definitely goes up quite a lot. Because your brace has to be so much stronger. But you find that you feel like your head's gonna explode a little bit. But that's why you see a lot of equipped lifters have like gum shields and stuff,
yeah,
because then they can clench their jaw, and again it helps disperse that pressure a bit. So yeah, there's definitely like a lot of pressure across your body, but actually you have to be very, very tight and controlled on your technique. You can dive bomb it in raw a little bit, but you have to be, really kind of, because you've got so much more weight on your body, you just need to
yeah,
be a bit more controlled. But it's one of those ones you get to the bottom and you start pressing out and you're like, okay, I'm gonna get this. It's gonna take a while for me to lock it out at the top, but actually, by the time you get to the top, it feels so much more satisfying, I think, than a raw squat, because
yeah,
you're like, I've just done 25% more than my raw squat here. And me personally, like I I don't think I'm really that good of a lifter. Like I'm extremely average, right? I will happily admit that. But for me, like at the time, whenever I first did equipped squats, I was squatting about 170 raw, and I did a 200 kilo squat for the first time in knee reps, and I was like, I never thought that I would ever hit 200 kilos on a squat, and now I'm like, okay, actually, 200 is an easy second attempt for me now. So I'm like, the feeling of doing that actually is so rewarding because it makes me hit numbers that I felt like I'm never going to be able to reach this. And even though people might go, "Oh, but you're using equipment that's cheating," I'm like, it's not cheating. It's part of the history of our sport.
yeah.
Is
It's the
exactly
original way.
this is yeah, this is a very legitimate part of our sport. This is, it's like the difference between sumo and conventional and deadlifts. It's like they're both legitimate things. They're just two very different ways of doing it.
Yeah,
And so I think just more people need to give it a chance, I think.
yeah.
And if it's, you know, go down and watch it at a comp, and if you go, hey, actually give me a chance to wrap my knees and I'll give it a try, like I'm all for it.
This made me want to try quit.
You absolutely should. I'm telling you, you really should give it a try.
Now I'm just thinking of Bobby pulling out on a bench shirt to Sammy's. I hope he does. Um, where were we at? What's been your most stressful moment and your funniest moment at a powerlifting meet? Like for anything like volunteer and handling,
Yeah.
uh, tech, anything.
Well, actually, so you call out the funniest moment. So actually, seeing whenever we were at the March comp and we were trying to wrangle Matthew into his equipment, and he was wearing these little, the chicken deadlift socks, like with
Yeah,
the little chicken legs. So
yeah,
he's there, like, just kind of just shaking around in his little chicken feet deadlift socks, and there's about 12 people standing watching us, going, "You guys are insane."
yeah. This
But it was
was
so
yeah.
funny. So like that's a really, really good like funny memory. And definitely I've enjoyed looking back at the photos from that comp.
Oh,
Yeah, so there's that. Then I suppose stressful ones have been obviously, like we have run in NIPF, we've run a few national level competitions for British powerlifting. So those have been pretty stressful because like you're running a national level competition, and like you cannot screw it up. Like
yeah,
you have to do it really well. Like people are expecting a really good standard of competition. So that's been stressful at times. If you're like going, man, I need to get a cable to plug it into this internet port here, or I need an HDMI cable is just broken. I need to go and get a replacement for that. I do remember that there was one time we hosted the Home Nations and the internet went down, and I literally had to leave during the competition, drive to like PC World or somewhere to get some kind of like basically like an internet
yeah,
you know thing, an internet port thing, and I would literally have to leave during the competition. So that was really stressful, knowing that hey, this technology is not working right now. So that was pretty stressful. So um, yeah, you'll find that there's a lot of stuff that happens at competitions that isn't your fault, but it becomes your problem and your
Yeah,
responsibility. So those bits are the most stressful because you're like, I have done nothing to cause this, but I need to fix it. So yeah, and it's not just tech, it can be anything. It can be, you know, um it can be people getting injured, like in March, it can be um tech, it can be things that are, you know, outside or before or after competitions when you're setting up, all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of stress, but it's also extremely rewarding. So yeah, whenever you
yeah,
have those
love that
moments
game.
of yeah, those funny moments like, getting people into deadlifts, you take those and you value those moments. So yeah,
Oh,
so those are good.
it's the things you do for those moments, actually.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah,
Makes it all worth it.
yeah. Um, if you'd instantly change one thing about powerlifting, what would it be?
I think if I was to instantly change one thing, like I'm gonna bang this drum a whole lot during this podcast. But honestly, see if see if we had more people to volunteer. Like, I think the biggest
Agreed.
problem that powerlifting faces is capacity. Um, like, I would love to do more stuff. I would love to, improve the production value of like all the stuff we do in tech. I would love to, have stalls at events for like vendors and loads of stuff. I would love to have more stuff about like sponsorships and like strategic partnerships with businesses and things. So there's loads of stuff that I would love to do, but we just don't have the people to do it. It's like every person on the committee and even the volunteers we have, they are in school or they work full time and all that kind of stuff. And people just don't have the time to be able to devote to be able to do everything we want to do. So if I could change one thing, it'd be like, hey, just get more volunteers, get more people
Yeah.
to willing to give up, a couple of hours. It's like, look at you, you're devoting how many hours a week to recording this,
Yeah.
editing, doing social media, doing like putting the episodes out on like Spotify and YouTube, like all that kind of stuff. You're devoting so many hours to this because you love what you do.
Yeah.
And like that is hugely important that people have passion for it and want to give up their time. So I think that if we could get more people with those kind of values, this like my job would be a million times easier. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Because you've been finding people for the RTF comp, like the volunteer sheet, the volunteer form has been out for like at least 2 or 3 months, and you're still running around trying to get more people because not enough people have filled out a form.
yeah,
Uh, and then even I'm gonna call out Trevor on this, but not actually call him out. Just say that he did it. But did you see his story yesterday where he reposted it and he was like, "Don't be that one person who volunteers once just for international selection, and then never volunteers again." I don't agree with that. I don't agree with. I agree with Trevor's statement, but I don't agree with the volunteering one time for international selection because every time I volunteered, I've enjoyed it and I've been like backed. Like uh, whenever I first commentated at the December comp, you talked me through it and then commentated again nationals and spot and loaded at nationals, and Ricky showed me how to spot and load, which I already knew, but I just wanted to make sure that I was on the
yeah,
right track, and just knowing that I'm back through volunteering makes me want to do it more. And I
mhm,
don't get why people only do it one time for international selection, because sure, like people will do it for international selection, but I believe if you do it more than once, it's better looking for you as well, because you're helping
mhm.
out and devoting your time.
Yeah. I mean, like I agree. I mean, and I know we're not at the hot take section, but I kind of do agree. I think like actually, say if you want to be selected for international, like you need to be volunteering more than once a year.
Yeah,
Um, I hard agree, and I think, I see like other home nations in British powerlifting who are doing like, almost like a points model. So it's like if you volunteer a certain number of times, you get a certain number of points, and you need a certain number of points to qualify for an international. You can redeem those points as well for like early competition entries and all that kind of stuff. So there's some interesting ways that other home nations are doing it.
I actually like the
And do
idea
you know what?
of that
Yeah,
as well. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I think there's some interesting things, and you never know. Like some people might bring it to the AGM and go, "Hey, actually, here's a good idea." But I think, yeah, ultimately, you know, people should be wanting to volunteer, not feeling like, "Hey, I'm forced to volunteer in order to be selected," type thing.
Yeah. Because then it brings more of community to the sport as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, what's one thing lifters often complain about that is much harder to fix than they realize?
So I think that one thing that lifters complain about is like everybody has been in a warm up room and it's like it's tight quarters, you're like scooting past people who are trying to squat, after they've just like walked out of a rack, and you're deadlifting in whatever corner you can find. Like warm up rooms are always cramped. Gym venues are cramped. You've got like two toilets usually at most venues. It's gyms are not great places to hold competitions. Like I'll just say it because gyms are designed for like so few, like a whole lot less people. Um, and I think people would love to see bigger venues and like more space. Like we were really, really blessed to have more space at Nationals. Like Nationals was a great venue.
It was
The warm up room was
massive.
big. Like there was loads of natural light. There was tons of bathrooms. Like it was great. I would love to be able to do more competitions in places like that, but it's really expensive. Like I think the only reason why we were able to hold that competition in Girdwood was because actually they worked with us as part of the European City of Sport stuff, and so we got a really big discount on being able to hold that competition there. Um, and so like if people want bigger venues, you have to pay more money. But also we realize that like asking people to pay loads more money is actually a barrier to competing and entering and participating in the sport. We don't want to be charging, £100 for membership and, £60 for a competition entry because people
Yeah.
just can't afford that. So it's like actually you have to kind of make do with what you have. Now, if somebody wins the lottery and wants to donate a whole lot of money to us, we'll take it because then we can host competitions in big, massive sports halls and stuff where you have tons of room. But I think that's the biggest thing. It's like actually realizing, especially in Northern Ireland, like our venues are not huge,
Yeah.
but
It's not a dominated
you
sport.
know, yeah, but like with what we have, we actually do really well. We're really lucky to have a really great like partner network with NIPF, and we have loads of really great gyms who put on really good events, all around the country. We try to spread it out geographically so as people don't have to travel a million miles, every competition. Yeah, we're kind of limited by the amount of venues we have, but actually we do pretty well for what we have. So I think, we should all feel pretty proud that that's what we're doing. But, if I had unlimited amounts of money, yeah, I'd be loving if we could put it in big flashy venues that everybody loves to see. So
Yeah.
hopefully we'll see more of that as we continue to grow.
Yeah. Uh, I keep forgetting where I am. Raw versus equipped, which actually requires more skill and why?
Equipped, 100%, like
Based
hands
on what
down.
you've told me already, yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, I mean, like you see um, people putting on a bench shirt and going, "Oh, sure, how bad can it be?" And actually, you realize, no, there's all this stuff. Like, there's a defined, kind of bubble of tolerance within. They have to move the bar path.
Yeah.
You have to be really slow and controlled on your squats. Um, because otherwise, the equipment is actively fighting against you, and you have to fight to keep it, controlled to get as much energy stored in it as you can. So yeah, so it just requires a whole lot of technique. But it's I think it's just a lot more fun. Like I've, having tried equipped, I've found a new real love for powerlifting that I didn't have quite as much for raw. Um, I am notoriously a squat hater, and then I started taking on equipped, and actually, do you know what? Equipped squats are now my favorite. So it's like if they can get me to love squats, like equipped is the best.
Hands down.
Yeah. So
Uh, yeah. And well, before we move on to the hot takes, what's your best piece of advice for a first-time competitor?
Um, Probably learn the standard, like really, really learn the standard before you go into your first comp, because people will go to, especially, they'll go into a normal comp rather than a rookie, and they won't understand the rules, and they'll get called for things by the refs, and
And not
they'll
understand.
yeah, I'd rather that somebody, you know, maybe gets a little bit of coaching from a dedicated powerlifting coach, or they go to a rookie and where the refs will actually explain some of the rules to you and that kind of stuff. And I would rather they have a good day and they go 9 for 9. I don't care about them getting PBs. Go 9 for 9. Your objective is learn the competition, learn the rules, understand the standard. Whereas if you go and you go 3 for 9 or 4 for 9 at a comp, because you don't understand the standard, like that's that's not a good experience. It doesn't make you want to stay in the sport.
Yeah,
So actually get a bit of experience, understand what you're doing. You wouldn't go in to any other sport without knowing the rules. So like don't do it in powerlifting. It's exactly the same. So bit of coaching from a dedicated powerlifting coach or do a rookie. Like that's
yeah.
what those competitions are designed for.
Because even I was there the whole day for the rookie comp in February in Newton Arts, and one thing I did definitely see a lot of was correcting from the refs. And obviously, they're not going to do that for a classic or a open because you're going to be expected to already know the standard anyway, and it's just going to slow down the comp if you do that. But if you know the standard, then would you agree that you just maybe not need to do a rookie if you know the standard?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing, it's again if you work with a powerlifting coach or even just kind of get some advice from people in a powerlifting gym, who understand competitions and that kind of stuff, go to them and say, look, what is realistically, here in terms of my expectations? Because I'd rather that somebody get a bit of experience and have fun and enjoy the sport and do it, so as they can actually have a long-term future in it rather than
Yeah,
go do it, once or twice and then have a bad experience and go, actually, that was really that like that wasn't fun. It just it I didn't enjoy it because I didn't do well and therefore it's not the thing for me.
yeah.
So
And then they don't get enough judgment. It's just first first impression is
yeah,
not what it's meant to be, and then they just get deterred off of it.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we'll move to the point that I've been waiting for all day. Uh, I asked you through the week to prepare some hot takes. First of all, I want to ask you how many do you have?
So I have four, right?
All right,
Now, some of them are hot takes, some of them are opinions. Um, I'm like being CEO, I kind of have to be a little bit, balanced with my opinion. Sometimes I have to be fair, right?
in other
Now
words, you don't
these
want
are
to be
going to
called
be
out by
these are
NAPF Center.
yeah, I know. I've been taking a bit of heat from NIPF Central the last couple of days, so I'm sure I'll be given more ammunition here. It's fine. Um, so first one, and I'm really interested to hear your opinion on all of these. Too many people take this sport too seriously.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, do you know what? This is a hobby. This is an amateur sport. It's one where you pay hundreds, if not thousands of pounds to participate.
especially
If you're not
internationals.
exactly right, if you're not going out there and you're having fun, like if you're taking it too seriously, you will burn out of the sport and you will leave it.
Yeah,
I have seen over the last few years, male and female lifters who have been competing both locally and who have been selected for Northern Ireland. Like they have done a few competitions and they have been exceptionally talented, but they have burnt out and they have left the sport. These are people who have held Northern Ireland records and still hold Northern Ireland records to this day, for example. Um, and they just didn't enjoy it. So it's like you have to find fun in the sport. You have to do it for that intrinsic motivation. Like you
yeah.
have to. that's so much more important than getting validation from other people or getting medals or getting records. Like, don't do it for that, because you will lose you will lose your love for the sport. And I think
Yeah,
that
because it
if
turns
you
into
take it too
work
seriously,
more than it does a hobby as
yeah,
well.
exactly, yeah. And that's why I think it's so important to, like, to build that community around you and to build like a group of genuine friends. And like whenever I see, the guys in our gym, it's like I don't consider that to be, oh, they're my gym friends, or they're, these, you know, athletes who I'll occasionally hang out with. It's like, no, no, actually they're my friends and we just so happen to be powerlifters.
Yeah,
That's what I see. I've built genuine friendships first, and I see them as competitors second. You
yeah,
know, so I think don't take the sport seriously. Really find that fun in it, because then you will want to do the sport for so much longer.
yeah. Because
So
I think it also depends on the kind of person you are. Because some people like will find the fun in working so incredibly hard and then having fun on comp day as well.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
So
like I
I
said,
mean,
it just depends on the kind of person you are. But I'd mostly agree.
yeah, and it's maybe not a hot take, but I think it's like it's something that you have to say to people. You have to let them,
Yeah,
occasionally check themselves about it again and go, do you know what? Actually, yeah, I need to find the fun in this.
yeah.
Um, so yeah. Um,
Because sometimes if people are too like serious or too like quote locked in on comp day, they could also see themselves falling apart on the platform because they
yeah,
think they need to hit this. They say don't do this, and then they end up doing said things, and then their whole day gets ruined, and
yeah,
then that could
'cause
also deter you from the sport.
yeah, and there's this concept of, like, forward momentum, whenever you're moving from, attempt to attempt, and from, squat to bench to deadlift. If you put so much emphasis on, I have to hit this squat, this third squat is going to be the thing that's going to set me up for my, the rest of my subtotal and the rest of my total, and if you don't hit that, your forward momentum going into bench, like, you are mentally boomed. So you cannot you cannot take it that seriously. You know, yes, you're competing against other people, but you know what? Play your own game. Like, if you're chasing other people, you're gonna trip over yourself.
Yeah, because
So
you're not looking
actually
them
just,
right in front of you as well.
yeah, yeah. And I know it's a competitive sport, and I know that you have to take it seriously and that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying don't do that, but learn to find the fun in it. That's the most important thing.
And with any sport as well, like
Yeah. Mhm.
it's just gonna promote longevity as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. So maybe not so much of a hot take, but just something I think that people need
Yeah,
to remind themselves of
that some
periodically.
people
So
could disagree with.
yeah. Um, okay, this next one. So you said, uh, hopefully I'm not going to call people out. I'm not calling out any individuals on this one, right? But it
Yep.
is a hot take for some people, right? If you use AI generated slop for your promotion, and especially if you use it for programming, it is so obviously inauthentic, and it makes people disengage with your content.
Agreed.
Like, I see AI generated captions, I see AI generated images. And did you see the IPF Open Worlds promo video, earlier in the week? And it
Think
had that
so.
AI generated rap song.
I didn't hear
So
the. I
go
probably seen the reel, but I haven't listened to the song because I probably was listening
right.
to it
The
without sound.
song is so bad, right? And so I talked to a few people, like in various parts of, other federations, and in various other roles. And I know this person, who is part of the kind of media team who does, some of the IPF stuff. And that that AI generated rap song was so bad, and it was so badly received on social media, that it actually caused, like, you know, like, they actually were like, this is taking us a bit of a reputational hit here, because,
Yeah,
it just, people just called it out and was like, you could have had any number of people who are in the powerlifting space who, could have done that for you, could have made a genuine song, but instead you just went to AI and you said,
yeah,
generate me some slop. So Um, yeah, I just think you see it and you're like, be your own authentic person. Like,
Yeah.
generate your own brand. Like, generate something that feels, upfront and honest and actually connect with people. I know it's like we're all busy and you need to just get, a caption for a post or whatever, but actually take like 5 minutes to do it. You know, we are all creative people, in some shape or form. Use that creativity and get something, because then it attracts people to you. So be authentic, really.
Yeah. Like, especially as well, like, there's a lot of talented artists and a lot of talented photo editors out there, and people are asking AI to generate them some, like, something you could make on a PowerPoint presentation that just so clearly looks like AI, or like looks so close to the next guy. Like, say if you have two YouTube thumbnails right beside each other and one's custom created and then the other one you can see that is definitely like taken off some like uh stock website. That's how I see AI promotion, because it normally just looks, it's not night and day, it's just night and
It
night.
just
It's
feels off. Yeah,
just feels the same,
yeah.
because AI will
I
do it
know,
a certain way no matter what.
exactly. And it's like, just, by all means, like, use AI to get an idea, but like, put it into your own words. If it's a caption, do something that's, a close approximation in like Canva, or, something, if you're gonna make images, something like that, just because then it just feels a bit more authentic, and it actually drives people towards you, because they go, actually, you've spent time making this. And I know that we're in the social media generation where you're just going to flick past content. So maybe it doesn't always land, and you know what, that's okay. But be authentic, because like, people will learn to trust you, I think, if it's,
Yeah.
your honest hard work.
Yeah, because
So
if you look at it and you see it's AI, if it was me, I'd instantly flick past it. But say if I flick on to something that genuinely looks original and looks like somebody's put time into it, I'll stop and look at it. More so because I can just, like, AI's been around for a while now, and you can sort of tell what's AI generated now.
yeah. Mhm. Yeah, it just feels
Yeah,
a little bit unnatural. So yeah.
yeah,
So no AI generation for me, basically.
agreed.
Um, okay, next one. Again, this is going to be a hot take, which is going to probably cause some people some have to ask some uncomfortable questions. Personally, I think online coaching should be banned.
Ooh,
So that is probably a
ooh.
relatively hot take. So here we go. Right. So again, maybe this is me coming from an equipped, perspective, right?
Yeah, 'cause we talked about it
But
earlier.
but people who get online coaching, and particularly online coaching only, you know, you you don't have that like immediate feedback. So you're going
Yeah.
to spend an entire session doing, a movement, or like doing all that kind of stuff, and actually you don't get that immediate feedback. You don't have people holding you accountable for not training to a standard, and it actually holds your progress back, I think. So,
Mm.
I think you need to have people keeping you honest and accountable. And so if you are waiting, 24 hours for your coach to watch your videos and reply back to you, actually, you're not going to progress as fast as somebody who gets immediate correction from a coach or a friend or a referee or something like that. So I think online coaching, it's not, it's just not good.
I do respect the opinion. Uh, like, a few of my mates from my gym will say this, like the likes of Peter and a few of the other ones only just getting into powerlifting. Like, I'm no coach, and you definitely know this, but I like Peter also gets coached by Reese, as well as me, and I've been under Reese for longer, and uh, it's mainly what I've been doing, because say if Peter gets his feedback within 24 hours, and say if I see his squat depth is high or something, I'll hold him accountable for that. Or say if I know what his accessories are programmed at, like what RPE it's programmed at, or if he's cheating reps or anything like that, I'll call him out on it. And say if he's not going to the RPE, I'll call him out on it. Like that sort of holding the accountability thing, but I think that's only really going for people who have gym partners and don't train on their own at a gym. But even with the online coaching thing, I'm not against the point. There's also like I'm against online coaching from this is probably gonna be against or this is probably gonna be shot at a couple of people, but overseas online coaching more so than coaching online coaching within a local federation. Because say like mm, my coach lives an hour and a half drive or an hour drive away from me, but we can meet in the middle at some gym every now and again. Like I'm going to train with
Yeah.
Reese tomorrow in Gainforth, like stuff like that as well.
Yeah,
I
and
think
it's easier
is
for,
better.
your coach to come to a competition and actually coach you in person,
Yeah,
and help you through, whereas if you're being coached by somebody overseas, unless it's a really special competition, like they're not going to be able to come and fly over and handle you they're not going to handle you at Sammy's,
yeah,
um, so I think whilst I don't think online coaching ever will stop or be banned, like I think it has so many limitations that actually I don't find the value in. Like I find way more value in actually getting people, like my coach in the gym or like the people who are in my squad. I find they add value because they're around me, and because they keep me honest. They help me whenever I'm you know, squatting, make sure I'm squatting to depth in equipment and that kind of stuff. So it's like I rely on them so much more. And if I had an online coach, I couldn't do that. And so I think I wouldn't be able to do equipped if I had an online coach. So
yeah,
yeah, I just think it displays its limitations so much.
yeah. And
So
even with
yeah.
like getting feedback and stuff, uh, it's probably just me, but I'm surely somebody else will resonate with me on this. But getting feedback for me is so much easier to remember because say if I come to a session and say if I get the tricep pushdowns and I know that the week before, because I video most of my accessories, if not all of them, just to keep me right on form and stuff like that. Um, if I know coming to that accessory that um Reese has given me feedback on to improve on from the previous week, I can just scroll up in the messages and be like, right, this and this, just listen to this voice message, and I can remember what exactly it was rather than having to like try to remember what he said last week whenever there's a lot of things going on, like especially over my exam period and stuff. I'm not really thinking about what feedback I got last week.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think there's pros and cons, and I think it works for some people and it doesn't work for others. And that's the thing, it's like every individual is right in the way that they want to train,
Yeah,
and then the way that they want to be coached. And some people will be like, I actually don't want an in-person coach. Absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it's just for me, it just has its limitations.
yeah,
And yeah, again, bit of a hot take on that one, and I think it's
yeah.
probably the hottest of all the takes that I have.
I
But
do pretty much agree,
mm,
sort of.
yeah, I think you can see the pros and cons in it.
Yeah,
So yeah. Mhm.
I can see both sides,
Um,
which is probably the best
yeah,
thing.
yeah. See, you could be a future CEO with a nice diplomatic answer like that.
uh,
Um, all right, okay, last one. Good equipment that you're training on is a privilege and not a right.
yeah, I agree.
So if you get
Definitely agree
yeah,
with
if
this.
you get if you get used to lifting on really good equipment all the time, and you go to a competition and it's not what you're used to, it'll throw you off your game and it'll make you underperform. So like before Asylum became a partner gym, we had like next to no powerlifting equipment. Like we used to train on weightlifting equipment. We had
Yeah,
a a a bench press that was a fixed height bench. There was like, everybody had to train at one height because it was literally two big solid arms, and that was it. It just didn't change height. We had one Texas power bar, and the rest were weightlifting bars. And the rings on a weightlifting bar are about an inch or two wider. So every time we used to train and try and like match our grip width, then anytime we went to a competition, like the rings were different spacing, and it always used to throw us off.
Oh,
So so we were so used to training with old crappy equipment. Um, I say crappy. I hope my coach isn't listening to this because I love it. I'll never change. But like get used to training with like old bars. Train with uncomfortable slidey benches. Not with combo racks. Like all that stuff because actually, whenever you go to a competition and you get good equipment, actually it's a really nice pleasant surprise and you're just so much more comfortable rather than being used to the best of the best equipment and then going somewhere that doesn't have as good equipment and then going, what is this? This is like I can't train like this or I can't compete like this. So yeah, good equipment is a privilege, not a right.
yeah. Like, even people who train in pure gyms, they mostly only have access to bumpers as well. I've never actually had a problem with training in different environments. Like, I've probably said to other people otherwise, but I have trained in different gyms before with bumper plates and lower standard bars that aren't a Lyco or like a power rack or something. And I have saw a difference, obviously, because there is going to be a difference between calibrated plates and a Lyco bar to a Belfast bar and some bumpers. But uh, I just think that if you train with lower quality equipment or just like basic commercial gym equipment, it'll make you more adapted as a lifter
Yeah,
rather than having to rely on
100%.
calibrated plates and stuff like that. As much as
Yeah.
calibrated plates are lovely to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, again, you look back to the history of where our sport came from, like not even just like the general history, but like in NIPF, like back in the 90s, like whenever Sammy first hosted the bench press competition, like he made the first rack that NIPF had. Like he welded that thing together. Like it was handmade. It was very basic, but you know what? Like it did what it needed to
It
do.
worked.
Like this is
Yeah.
this is where our sport came from. Like it came from people just going, "Hey, I have a problem with needing a piece of equipment to do this thing. I'm going to make it. I'm going to weld it together. I'm going to do it myself." You have people like Louis Simmons who made the reverse hyper because he had
Yeah.
this injury. He came up with a solution to a problem, and now the reverse hyper is in millions of gyms across the world, um, because such a it was a it was a piece of equipment that was just designed out of need. So actually, powerlifting has real origins in actually just
Creativity.
in this old equipment, this things that people are making just
Yeah.
themselves. So it's like
Commitment.
don't underestimate it.
Yeah.
So
It's
yeah.
back to the creativity thing as well. Like people can
Mhm.
make do or like make stuff and then make do with what they make. It's like getting a first car. You only want a car that gets yourself from A to B, nothing flashy.
Yeah,
Same thing with a combo rack that Sammy made.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So more power to him.
Is that all hot takes, eh?
Yep, that's it. So yeah, I think the hottest of the takes about the online coaching one, but the other ones I think
Yeah.
are, you know, they're opinions more than hot takes, but I guess it's ones that I think, I probably don't get the chance to shout about them too often. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take
I
the
think they're
opportunity
pretty
now.
reasonable. So they were.
Mhm. So yeah,
Yeah.
glad not to be too controversial.
Yeah. We will move on to the Instagram questions now, and I'm actually so glad that there's not too many because I don't have to sit and laugh about all of them. But I've copy and pasted every single one, so I haven't actually read through all of them. I'm only reading through them now. But the first one is from Tom Irwin, who always gives me or gives in reasonable, wise questions to start off with. So I actually had it originally in one of my basic questions, and then I saw him put it up. So, how long have you been CEO for?
So I have only been CEO for about 9 months. I think I became CEO at the AGM in October 25. So it's been a relatively short tenure, but it's been busy. It's been a trial by fire. It's been an interesting one. But you know what? I think it's been great. And I think based on some of the feedback that I've gotten from people, they've really enjoyed me being CEO because they can see little bits of changes
Yeah,
as the federation kind of evolves and grows a little bit. And it's kind of like past, from the last two or three CEOs into this kind of like, I guess, new generation as this kind of new generation of
yeah,
lifters comes through. So I think it's great that we get to kind of put our stamp on things. So yeah, so we'll see um, what the next rest of this year brings, and
yeah,
then we'll see what happens from there.
yeah. Before we go on to the next one, I want to add in a little bit. Uh, how long, like, would a CEO normally be for, or is it just depending on like who's voted on it, like say an AGM
So
every year?
the seats voted in every year at the
All
AGM.
right.
So
So if you
I
get
could
voted on
be.
again this year, you could be on for another year.
Yep. Who knows? I mean, I know that, for example, Ricky Mullen, who is one of the former CEOs, he was CEO for 10 years. So,
Um,
you know, there are times when people can be in for, uh, a whole long time. Who knows? Somebody else may come along and go, actually, Josh, you've been rubbish. I think I could do a better job. And I'm like, cool, work away. That's
go
fine.
ahead.
Anything, yeah, anything for a quiet life. No, it's
Uh,
like, it's genuinely been a privilege to kind of do this. People think the CEO job is, oh, you just get to make all the
yeah,
decisions. Actually, there's a whole lot of stuff that gets thrown at you. You just have to kind of deal with.
yeah,
It's like I said earlier, like it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Um, and you know what? Along with that comes a whole lot of stuff, which is actually a real privilege to deal with. You get to help people get selected to compete for their country. You get to see people celebrate when they break a Northern Ireland record. You get to see people compete for the first time and help them and all that kind of stuff. So there's a whole lot of privileges come with it, but there's a whole lot of hard work too. So
yeah.
hopefully, if people think I've done a good job, then they'll vote me back in.
Hopefully so. Uh, I think this is an anonymous account because I followed up and checked. Because it was a random name. It was like Tiger and then a whole load of numbers. So I think it was like a new account that actually asked a genuine question but didn't want to be revealed. But the first question they put in, I remember this, was make him sing, and then I deleted that
Uh,
one.
no, yeah, I think we'll pass on that one.
But the second one was who is his favorite sub junior, junior, open, and masters female and male athletes?
That is not a fair question.
Yeah,
Oh man, like, I mean, I can't. It's so it's so difficult to pick things like that because, I mean, not only do you not want to offend people, but actually, I think we're pretty lucky in the fact that even though we're a really small federation, so we have less than 300 members, right? But even though we have, only that number of people, so we have about, I think it's about 280 is what I saw the last time I looked at the membership stuff this week. And um, despite that, we have got a whole lot of talent coming through. Um, like sub juniors and juniors are just getting stronger and stronger every year.
yeah,
Like I look at the standard whenever I started compared to now, and like there are like tens of kilos more in terms of total and even in terms of individual lifts. I look at the talent of people like, you know, Maverick Riches and Adam
yep,
Galt, who are sub junior and juniors who are on the GB team.
yep,
I look at people who've, kind of come through and done one or two competitions. I look at, the female sub junior and juniors. You've got like Imogen and Tegan from your gym. You've got um, Madeline. You've got like I almost don't want to name check people because I know I'm going to miss people out.
yeah.
But
But
like,
so many people, like,
yeah,
you can only think of
and it's like,
certain names
yeah,
sometimes.
and it's like, and you're putting me on the spot, so I know I'm gonna like
Yeah, well,
call out some names. But it's like you've got, you know, um, You've got like George and Lewis, who I had a really good, like loads of really good conversations with at the March comp,
Yeah.
up in Coleraine, because I got to know them. I got to, talk to them during like the setup and takedown, during them doing the commentary stuff. Like I've gotten to know you a lot better, kind of over the volunteering stuff. There's what I like to see is I like to see people like being able to show their personalities,
Yeah.
and actually getting to know people. So the fact that like we actually have people who like are like, I guess they're just people who are actually coming into their own. Like
Yeah.
that's what I love to see. And gaining confidence, not just in lifting, but actually being in like well-rounded individuals. Um, so I think that's what I love to see in our sub juniors and juniors. Um, in terms of the open, I'm gonna have to say my wife. Like she's my favorite open lifter, so I think I'd get in trouble if I didn't say that.
I guess fair enough.
Um, yeah. And in terms of masters lifters, I mean, it's hard not to love Ricky Mullen. Like he is just an absolute legend on the platform. Like he's so
Uh,
entertaining to watch.
on and
You've
off the
got
platform,
exactly, yeah, you've got
no
Anto as
offense.
well. Just so strong. And also like Anto's great to be on the exec committee with. Like he's really, really good at the finance stuff too. But the masters lifters just have so much fun. Like I'm telling you, like last year was my first year in masters, and see not having to compete against 25-year-olds anymore. Oh my goodness, that is the best. Like you can just
Oh,
actually have so much fun. And also like British Masters just happened, right?
yeah.
I definitely got a phone call late at night from people on the Masters team. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to expose anything here. But like, I definitely got a phone call, and it was very late at night, and they were having a great old time. And let me tell you, see if you make it to Masters in this sport, you will have the best time of your life. So.
Yeah.
Like, do not underestimate just how good the Masters lifters are, and how much fun they can have. So,
I'll take your word
I
for it.
think we're just yeah really privileged to like actually have some really great characters and great personalities.
Oh,
So like if there's a message, like I don't have favorite people. I just have a like this is just probably actually one of the favorite communities that I've been involved in, because I've done like volunteering in community and voluntary sector for like since I was about 16. So like, you know, 30 years ish, give or
yeah.
take. Or sorry, no, that's not right. My math is
Well,
not good right now. It's Friday night.
like,
25 years.
yeah.
Um, so like this is probably the most fun community that I've been involved in. So actually, I'm just want to say like people in the community, like don't be afraid to be you. Like let your personality come out. Let yourself be known. Like let yourself. You don't have to be an extrovert to do that, but like be a person who people want to be around. You
Yeah.
know, that's how you find enjoyment in this sport, like by building that community. So,
Yeah. It's very
um,
sociable as well.
yeah, be unapologetically you, really. Yeah.
Yeah, you can see a whole lot of people like even I love what like whenever I think Jack posts like once a day after a comp
Mhm.
and I love what looking at those stories and posts of just like people goofing off. Like what I
Yeah.
even said on his episode with Cameron about the picture of Ryan, Jack and Nikki
Hmm.
all posed a certain way. And I keep forgetting what way they're actually posed, but I think I know what one you're or I think you know what one I'm on
Yeah. Yeah.
about like stuff like that as well that
Hmm.
you can sort of see people's personality flow and then like whenever I handled for the first time at the March Classic I got like got to know Jack Snoddy really well as well, which is another sort of thing about seeing people's personality flow because sociable sport.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And like I remember watching that episode with Jack and Cameron, and I think Jack said something about, whenever he takes photos of people like Zach Graham or Samuel Adepo, and it's like they just can't be serious in photos.
Yeah.
And it's like he loves letting that personality shine through in his photography.
Yeah.
And again, people love to see that. like because it actually
Yeah.
makes those people feel real. And it's like,
Yeah.
hey, I feel like I can go up and talk to you at a competition. You're not like some, big, like fancy, mysterious figure who I feel
Yeah.
really intimidated. Actually, no, you're a real person, and I feel like I could be mates with you. So that's what I love to see,
That's the
and
same
that's
thing
what I think really comes through in their photography.
because I was sort of intimidated by Jack because obviously I saw big guy near 300 kilo squat. I'm scared of him. And then
Mhm.
I saw all the pictures that he took of me at March and December, and then I was like, I should probably speak to this guy. And I speak to
Yeah,
him every single time I'm up at Game Fourth, and I'll probably see him tomorrow, and I'll speak to him as well.
yeah.
And it's also
So
like the same premise. Like most people come into the gym and see a big person and be like, "Oh, they're big and scary," but they're genuinely just a really nice person.
yeah, I know, and that's the thing. I think in the NIPF we just have a whole load of teddy bears, so we're fine.
Ricky.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. until
Uh,
until he's on the platform, and then he's not so much a teddy bear.
oh, we're only on the third question of Instagrams. Um, well, Calvin Abraham asked about your history with powerlifting, raw/equipped. I think we sort of covered that.
Yeah. No, I did, did a rookie, did a few raw competitions. To be honest, I didn't compete for about the first 2 years because I was really intimidated. I was like, no, competitions aren't for me, like really not interested. And eventually, AJ, so Adam Johnson and my wife, they both. I'll also say, for anybody who doesn't know, I'm married to Elena. So yeah. So she and AJ basically convinced me, right, go and do a rookie. Did a rookie, and I was like, flip, this is actually really fun. And then just snowballed from there.
Just put you on. Yeah. Just, Calvin asked another question. What's it
Nervous now.
like being a Sigma?
What's it like being a Sigma? Well, here's the thing. True Sigmas don't really care about what it's like being a Sigma.
I think that's a great answer. Next question's from Cameron Scott. And I laughed at this question whenever I first saw it because it was like the only thing he does whenever he volunteers. Is there any new ideas in brackets in the works when it comes to comp with MCing, commentary, etc.?
Um, from Cameron.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, like we definitely need an official NIPF playlist from Cameron Scott.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's number one idea right there. Um, I mean, no, definitely. There's a few things that I would like to do, to improve like tech and production quality and that kind of stuff. Um, again, I'm just every so often I'm just like poking Anto and saying, hey, like, have we got any money? Can we apply for a grant scheme to get this stuff? All that kind of stuff. So there's definitely a few things that I would like to do. Um, so yes, I've got a few ideas in the works, and we are working to try and see what we can do. Especially, I think the idea is that, especially for nationals, like for nationals, we want nationals to be the big competition every year, and it's like that's the one where we want to bust out, replays on the live stream and like
I love
motion
that.
graphics, and things like that. So there's a ton of stuff that we love to do, and we want nationals to feel like, hey, this is our one big event really during the year, and we want people to feel like actually this is where you pull out all the stops. But actually, then the more volunteers we have, the more we can do, and the more we can elevate what we do, like in the standard for competitions and stuff. So, again, this is just another plug for volunteers. Like, get involved if you want things to improve. The only way we can do it with
What
people.
more do you expect?
Yeah.
Cameron also asked a question again, and it's same as Calvin's, just a serious question and a funny question. If I'd 10 chickens in one hand and 11. Right. If I had 10 chickens in one hand and 11 cows in the other, how much can I bench?
Uh, you could definitely bench more than Trevor Jordan. So I'm expecting big things at Sammy's, Cameron. So, um,
Don't
no,
think
like,
Trevor will like that one.
well, if you can hold 11 cows in one hand, then I'm impressed because a cow is like at least 500 kilos. So I'm like,
Something like that.
yeah, you're gonna have. big old biceps on you. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, like you'll be breaking a world record in no time.
Yeah. Uh, Next question is from Lucas Carvalho. I still can't pronounce the name, but you know who I'm talking about, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, why was why was the decision made for NI Nats to become an open? This is actually something I want an answer for.
So so that wasn't a decision that I made, and it wasn't a decision that the committee made. So it was actually part of an AGM motion. So every year at the AGM, all the members can submit these motions of like, hey, here's how we want the federation to run, and all the members can go in and vote on it. And so last year, somebody submitted a motion to say, actually, look, you look at nationals in 2025, there was loads of weight classes where it was literally just one person. And like, I don't know whether you've ever competed in a competition and it's just been you in your weight and age class. And it's
Yeah,
like, you're not competing against anybody. You're, if you get a PB, hey, that's really cool. You go up, you get a certificate, you get a medal, you're on the podium by yourself. You haven't, like, for a lot of people, there was that feeling of actually, I haven't really achieved a lot because I haven't
yeah,
actually had to compete and prove myself against anybody. I haven't felt that real competitive edge. And so somebody said, do you know what? What if we made it open nationals? Because then actually you're going to have junior, open, masters one, masters two. They can all compete together. That comprises of such a big, massive age group. You can get tons of people in. You actually have competitive, um, you know, weight classes rather, because you don't have to count age classes. And then it feels just a bit more prestigious because you're really going up against the best of the best because it's
yeah,
literally just the top people regardless of age category.
yeah. It's gonna be
Now,
more as a junior to win an open, for example.
yeah, exactly. So um, the only thing about that is under the IPF rules, in an open competition, you can't have sub juniors and
Mhm.
you can't have masters three or masters four. Like that is
See, I
the
was gonna
IPF
ask about
rules.
that.
So that's not a decision that we make. That's a decision that the IPF put on us, and we have to abide by, you know, by the rules of British powerlifting and the rules of IPF. So it's like, is it? I would love to have a nationals where there's like tons of people can come and compete, and you have, three or four or five people in every age and weight class. I'd love to have separate nationals for sub juniors and juniors. I'd love to have a nationals for equipped. I'd love to have like all these things that would be great to do. But like we have to remember, like we are less than 300 people, like
Yeah,
300 members, and it's like I don't think that anybody could argue that like this year's nationals was probably one of the best competitions we've done.
yeah,
You know, it's like I think there was one weight class where there was one person. Everybody else had at least two or three in their weight class
yeah,
um, in the open category. And it was like you saw so many really good battles. Like,
yeah,
you had the 76 women, you had the 84 plus, you had um, the infamous 83 battle with Flan and Bobby and AJ kind of taking the podium spots. You had the 105s, where Jack Gilchrist, who is undoubtedly one of the strongest 105s that we've had in the NIPF, like actually had to, he really had to pull out a whole load of stops because
yeah,
Richie was really coming up behind him.
yeah,
And Aiden as well. Like, Aiden going up against as a junior going up against two open lifters, and
and
Aiden
still
really held his
playing.
own too.
Yeah,
So absolutely, like there was some really, really good battles, and it provided a whole lot of drama, and it was so entertaining to
yeah,
watch. And it's like, is it crap that it excludes sub juniors because of the rules? Yes, absolutely. But does it make it a better competition? I think that everybody loved nationals this year,
yeah,
and I think it was the right decision. Now, would I love to see more people going into nationals? Yes. Would I love to see more people meeting and exceeding the qualifying total? Absolutely. So I'd love to see that, and I'd encourage more people to like to really train their hearts out, so is that next year actually we can make it even bigger and better. But that so it wasn't a decision that we made, it was a decision that the membership made as a total, but we made the best of it because actually I think we put on a great event, and I think that the lifters did really well and really proved themselves. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to do it again next year.
I think it's also another thing, like, because I'm in a circle with quite a few sub juniors, and whenever they've realized that it was an open nationals, they sort of like were wondering why. But then you turn around and you realize that British juniors was the same weekend. So, and most sub juniors would have qualified for that. And even if you do want to qualify for British juniors, there's every other comp bar the rookies within the 12 months of British juniors to qualify for that. So
Yeah.
what's the difference of having nationals as a including sub juniors? Because it's just not adding another comp, and there's a chance of it colliding with British juniors being on the same weekend, depending on the year, if it was a Commonwealth year or not.
Yeah. Absolutely. And like during opens, we kind of get around those rules, I say, by, you have the open competition, but we also put on like a separate sub junior competition. So we're
Yeah,
doing that at the NI Open, which is why we have sub junior lifters at the NI Open, because they're lifting in
yeah,
their own separate
they're
competition
all on the same
effectively.
flight.
Yeah. So that's how we kind of we're not we're not breaking the rules. Like we're kind of going, no, we have a separate NI Open competition, and then there's the sub junior element of the NI Open, which is like competed separately. Um,
Yeah,
but we just don't do that for nationals because again, like this is supposed to be the prestigious competition. We want to make sure that actually the people who are there represent like the highest in quality, because there's no satisfaction in being a sub junior and going up against an open lifter who's, you know, in their like mid to late 20s and who's going to
yeah,
absolutely dumpster you by like 200 kilos. Like that's not fun for anybody.
yeah,
So I'd rather just keep the sub juniors, and actually, do you know what? If there's such a demand, you know, let's get the sub juniors and say, do you know what? Submit a motion to the AGM. Say, hey, we want our own separate nationals, even if it's part of a separate competition or a separate day or something like that. Like, if that's what you guys want, absolutely, I'd say go ahead and submit that motion and get people on your side to vote for it. Because if you want it and you want to show, hey, here's what we have to give, let's make it happen type thing.
yeah,
But yeah, it's a let's be prestigious, let's celebrate what we have, and you know, ultimately as well, I guess there's an element of like I know that as a sub junior you want to do every competition too. But again, this sport is a marathon. It's not a
yeah,
sprint. Like you don't have to like just get burnt out in your, early years, because do you know what? You will keep on getting stronger into your like mid 20s. So do you know what? Like that's when you really need to prove yourself in the
yeah,
well, somewhat in the junior, but definitely in the open session. So
yeah.
yeah, let's see
Like,
what you got.
I got two things to say about the so even like going back to whenever you said that being masters, like you don't have to compete up against people in their early 20s anymore. Same
Hmm.
thing with the sub juniors who don't quite get to compete on par with the opens. Like there's obviously a few exceptions, like say Adam Galt or Maverick Riches, but they're not going to be every single sub junior in the country. Not
Hmm.
every sub junior 74 is going to total 600 and
Yeah.
potentially be an open lifter. So what's the point in having every sub junior there and then plus winning against yourself and being the only person in that category as well? And then what it was. It's way out of my head now. It's gonna annoy me.
Yeah. I mean, like you're right. It's one of those things of like, don't take the sport too seriously. Have fun with it. Um, you know, don't get frustrated about these sort of decisions, because actually there's plenty of opportunities for you to compete,
Yeah,
not just in Northern Ireland, but actually I think in NIPF we're in a really privileged position, because actually you can compete for NI, but you also have the opportunity to compete for GB. Um, you know, because we've got in NI, we've got the home nations against all the rest of the feds in BP. You've got small nations in Luxembourg. You've got Commonwealth this year, and then also if if you're really good enough, go ahead and go over to some of the British national competitions. We went over to British Equipped. Some of us in Asylum went over to British Equipped for the first time this year, and because of that, we have some of our junior lifters like Zach and Matthew who got picked to go to World Equipped Bench. We had Callum in the Open go to World Equipped Bench. Um, you know, AJ went and did his first full power competition. Oh well, sorry, second full power. He did Home Nations, and then he's kind of really making strides to try and see like can he get picked for the GB Equipped team. Like that's the real drive of actually. Do you know what? Don't just limit yourself to thinking about NIPF competitions because actually we have some really talented people, and actually just like Maverick and um, Adam, some of the junior and sub junior lifters, actually you have real potential. So do you know what? Go like dream big, you
Yeah,
know?
and even both of them going to Worlds as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
And that thing did come back into my head. Like even like you said about all the sub juniors wanting to compete in every single competition. It's not gonna it's not gonna have great effects, in my opinion, because whenever we talked about uh post March comp, we sort of had to sit down and thought like what am I gonna do next? And I already sort of had my mindset next because I wanted to I want to be at every comp this year, but just not always on on the competing side. Like I'm happy enough to just sit in a building season all the way up until December comp and then see what I have between March and December, see how much I can add on while having Sammy's bench in the middle of it just for a little like fun comp, not peeking into it or anything. But I think if somebody does every single comp that year, they don't get a chance to volunteer. Their body may just be cooked,
Yeah.
and
You don't get a chance to get some
mental
like
strain as
actual good
well.
training blocks in.
Yeah,
Like I think probably if you did two full power comps a year and maybe a bench only, that's plenty, because you need to
yeah,
get some proper training in. You need to get, you know, 12, 16, 20 weeks of like good solid training in to
yeah,
actually make progress. Because if you're just trying to peak and compete all the time, like you're never gonna
yeah.
actually grow. So yeah,
Like even for my first comp December, I had like a good July to December prep, and then December to March was less, but we still made the most of it. Uh, just to see what I could do in 14 weeks,
yeah,
and yeah, like especially the mental strain as well from going back to back to back preps and peaking all the time as well. It does take a toll, and I'm the kind of person that like a few people have said to me, "Oh, you need to compete like this many times a year. You need to get this experience and stuff." Like I didn't, I got an invite to nationals, but I didn't do it because of A levels. And then some people were turning around and saying to me like, "You should do nationals because it's a different type of competition. You should do it for experience and stuff like that." But I think I got enough experience being there and prioritizing my A levels at the same time. And
yeah,
then obviously the back to back to back preps wouldn't have been good on me anyway. Like what could I put maybe 20 kilos maximum in
yeah,
between March and May. Like
yeah.
in
There
the
will
long
always
run, it's
be
not
another
really.
nationals. So
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Or like, what if you build more to be at British nationals? You never know.
mm, yeah.
But
So
enough yapping. I'll go on to the next one.
yes, in essence, that's why nationals isn't open.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Uh, Jack Snolly put in a question.
okay,
Uh,
yeah.
when will you approve WWE style entrances in the NIPF?
Um, Okay, let's call it today. We will officially approve WWE style entrances. Like don't get me wrong. See, I'm talking about all that raising production quality. Like I would love to have pyrotechnics and everything. Like I would love to make it a full big show. But again, I have to do all the boring things of like licensing and making sure we can afford the finance and stuff and like all this kind of. So I get all the boring stuff to do as CEO sometimes. So,
Yeah.
but 100%, I would love it if you can, I mean, Jack, by all means, if you want to have a, a costume and a cape and like a mask and all, and then as long as you can take it off before the TO lets you go on the platform, because it's not going to be IPF approved, then that's fine.
I know. Uh, I actually got two. This does not follow the pattern with Sam Clyde, and he's given me two very serious questions. Uh, the first one is borderline serious, but we'll call it serious. How does it feel to
Yeah.
fix three things a comp?
Busy, stressful, but worth it.
And then, what made you want to take over position of CEO?
Um, what made me want? I don't think I particularly wanted to be CEO. Like, I don't think it wasn't about, oh, I get to make all the decisions. I think it was like I I run around at competitions because I want to make this the best it can be. Like, I want to give people opportunities to succeed and to have fun and to be able to show exactly the hard work they've put in. And I'm like, I look around and I go, who else would be good at helping set other people up for success? And I go, do you know what? I have the passion and the drive and the willingness to put the time in. You know, like you asked earlier, like there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that people don't see. Um, like for weeks and months before and after competitions, there's stuff that I'm doing. You know, I'm like late at night putting the information into the lifting cast so as the scoreboard runs. There's at competitions, like I don't care what I have to do. Like I will go and I will empty bins, I will clear up spilled drinks in the warm-up room. Like to me, having the title of CEO is just a few letters. Like it really doesn't matter. Like I will do whatever it takes to make our competitions successful and to make what we do um like just to make it great for people. Like I want them to feel like I don't want this to sound really cheesy, but I want them to feel like, hey, I could, you know, I could feel like one day NIPF could be like going to Sheffield. Like I want to be really massive production quality. Like I would love to have like video backdrops and like a big massive stage and lights and, you know, like all that kind of stuff. I would love to see that level of, obviously this is a massive pipe dream, but you know what? If I can set the NIPF up for success, that in, however many years, whenever somebody else takes over, that's the dream. Like um that's what makes me want to be in this role. It's not for what I'm doing right now. It's actually I want to make something that's going to be bigger than me. That whenever I'm not doing this anymore, people when actually you helped us to reach that next level, you helped us to make that stepping stone to
Yeah,
what the NIPF will be tomorrow, next year, 5 years from now.
yeah,
Um, it's that like let's help bring that vision to life.
yeah. Sort of
Um,
like
that's what made me want to be
crawling,
CEO.
sort of like crawling or walking, so somebody else could run. Like
Exactly. Yeah.
promoting the future more so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
And then the last two questions are from AJ. The first one is, who's the most chill person you've handled at comp, and why is it me?
It definitely has to be AJ because he will um, hurt me if I don't say that. So, um, no, AJ is actually very chilled at comps. He puts his headphones and he has a wee dance. He's actually really chilled out at comps. He does have some weird playlists though. I mean, he has been well known to be listening to things like "It's Raining Men." Like to get in the zone for like deadlifts and stuff. So like yeah, he is chilled, but he's definitely fun to handle. I handled them at whenever we went to British Equipped, which I there's stories from that I will never live down because, you know, I make him go really deep on his squats to make sure he doesn't get called for depth, and I never
Yeah,
hit the end of it because people are like, "Oh, that's too deep," and I'm like, "Well, he got the lift, didn't he? That's all that matters."
exactly. This is just giving me
Yeah,
fuel for next time I'm commentating AJ. Next year's nationals, put me on. I'll say for first deadlift, he's listening to It's Raining Men.
I'm getting you booked in now.
Colin, get me up. Right. And this last one is a pretty reasonable question. I think we already sort of covered it, but I'll ask it again anyway. What is your vision for the NIPF, and where do you see the Fed in 5 years?
Um, where do I see the Fed in 5 years is kind of a tough one because I've only been in the Fed for about 5 years, 5 or 6 years. So it's kind of like, but the thing is, like, I see where it's come from in the last 5 years, and I go, man, if we can improve that same amount that we have in the last 5 years, like you know,
Cruising.
we will be absolutely cruising. Um, so I mean, but my vision for the Fed is actually, do you know what? You know, it is we grow to hundreds more people. Um, we have things like a center of excellence, that we move partner with universities, and we have things where actually people can do like, you know, performance-based testing and can help contribute to the world of academia and knowledge of how like strength and conditioning can be improved. I would love to have stuff like that. I would love to have, you know, dedicated event spaces where we can go. I'd love to have things like the standard of nationals at every competition.
Yeah,
I'd love to have more equipment being farmed out to more gyms, to be in part of our partner network. There was so much stuff that actually, do you know what, I can dream so big, but I know that, we're limited by the people that we have on, like the number of people that we have on board and the money we have access to and things like that. But actually, do you know what? That's why it's really important for us to have people on the committee who apply for grant funding and who maintain relationships with our partners and all help manage our like volunteers and stuff like that. So that's why I think it's so important to have really great teams of people around us, because it just helps, not just for my vision of the federation, but I think our collective vision. Because I think, whenever I talk to people like you, or I talk to the sub juniors who are really passionate and want to like see big competitions, like absolutely I want that too. But there's so much more. Like there's so much more of that other supportive stuff that can build us up into not just, hey, we can do really great local competitions, but actually we can develop great athletes who can go to, you know, compete for the national team, who can compete on the world stage, who can win medals at, world level competitions. Like that's what I want to see. I want to see people moving down that pathway, not just in terms of, local to national to international, but also in terms of actually staying with the federation through their life, going from sub junior, junior, open masters. Like I want to see people, becoming referees, going up to Cat 2 and Cat 1. And, you know, I always find it so entertaining whenever I see people like Mike and Lauren at world level competitions, like on the TV, and I'm like, I know them.
I
And I
know
know
that
it's really
person.
cheesy, but it's like, and they've achieved that like through their own hard graft. And it's like if we can encourage more people to come on board and grow as not just, oh, you're not just a lifter or you're not just a ref or whatever, but actually you're developing all these skills that make you a more rounded person, that actually goes, well, you know, I look at you, for example, and I'm like, well, you've developed this, this podcast. You've you've built all these skills up from, all the technical stuff, the like the design, the creativity, you know, managing social media accounts, like all that kind of stuff. You've built up all these skills because of your love of powerlifting. Like this hugely supports what the federation does, allows me to get my message out to people, like which is amazing. But it's
I'm
like
glad.
actually that's gonna really help you in, if you go into a future career in like media or like whatever, and you can go, actually, hey, in an interview, I could talk about, well, I did all this stuff with the federation, and look at all these skills I've developed because of it. Like that's what I want. I want people who are really great athletes, but also really well-rounded people.
Never actually
And I
thought
want
of
a
it that
really
way.
successful federation too. So it's like there's so much stuff that actually is more than just lifting heavy weights. Heavy weights are really important, but it's all that other stuff too that I have the vision for, that I want to try and grow. And I think people don't understand that it's just as important, as lifting a heavy thing and putting it back down, as fun as
Yeah,
that is. So yeah, so that's my vision. It's like growing everything.
yeah,
And so that's why I'm like, let's get more money, let's get more bodies in, because then that's the only way that we can make it bigger and better.
exactly, and promotes the sport as a whole as well.
Yeah,
And then even as a relatively small nation, like again with the Maverick and Adam being on the world's team as well, like you don't realize until they actually are on those teams. Like they're from a really small country competing
yeah,
for GB in South Africa. Like they went up against people across 4 countries to compete for a spot on this team, as
mhm,
well as
yeah.
it gives you an
And it
insight
just
of
makes
what
you
could
realize,
be
yeah,
as well.
we've got some, yeah, really talented people. So it's like dream big. Like I know I'm talking about these big dreams that I have, but that's what everybody should be doing.
Yeah,
It's like go and dream big. Don't just think about, oh, I'll maybe get to go to Commonwealth. It's like, no, think about going everywhere. Think about going to GB team. Think about, all the opportunities you can have. Think about all the things you can do, which can, yeah, it can support the Fed, but actually it builds you up as a person too.
yeah, more opportunities as well. And then forgot what I was gonna say again. Yeah, that one's gone.
It's because I'm keep on going on too long.
Yeah, but it's interesting. So like I'm actually learning things here.
Hey, this is an educational podcast. It's
Yeah,
all good.
it's educational for everybody anyway. Uh, I'm gonna delete one of the questions that I have for closing because we've already sort of covered it. It was uh like what would you have to happen for you to say in 5 years that your time as a CEO would be a success? And you've pretty much covered it, really. Just
Yeah,
growth and
yeah. I mean,
all the
and that's
rest.
the thing. I don't know what 5 years looks like, but
Yeah,
all I can do is try and put things in place that actually for the next person who comes along, hey, here's a really good stepping stone for you to jump off on.
yeah,
So that's it.
yeah. But for the last question I have, I sort of put a twist on what I asked somebody before because I just don't want to ask the same monotone question. I sort of did a little bit of research and found I came up with the idea. If you could have any one squat variation, one bench variation, one deadlift variation, and one accessory besides comp SBD movements for the rest of your life, what would they be? So one of each SBD variation and then one accessory.
All right. So I'm going to come at this from an equipped perspective. So squat variation is going to be box squats. So box squats really help you with that kind of like control and also like generating force out of the hole,
Yeah,
because you just lose all that tension. Um, so yeah, so box squats for squat variation. Bench variation will go for board press, because obviously whenever you're breaking in a new shirt and all that kind of stuff, you need to be able to like have something to like stop the bar from coming down quite so far, while you break in the shirt. So I'm going to say board press. Uh, Deadlift variation. That is a tough one because I'm not allowed just straight deadlift. So
oh,
um, we'll go we'll go RDLs. You know, build up wee bit of lower strength there, and then accessory movement. I will say some tricep extensions because again, you need that wee bit of extra just for the lockout on bench.
yeah,
Um, because contrary to public opinion, the equipment does not do the work for you. You still have to
Yeah,
be naturally strong underneath
it
it. So
it just sort of
yeah,
enables you to do that work.
yeah. Or if you're a master's lifter, it holds your body together enough that means you can actually do the lifting anyway. So
So you don't fall apart.
yeah, pretty much.
uh, but yeah, I think that sort of wraps it up, and I actually learned a lot, as I just said. But
Good.
yeah,
Cool. Well, thank you so much for having me on. As I say, like it's great to be able to fly the flag for Equipped. Say a little bit about, hey, here's what I do, and also I guess sell my vision, and hopefully, it encourages some people to maybe volunteer a bit more and kind of do some stuff to, give back to the sport a little bit. So yeah,
hopefully
thanks very
so,
much.
or else we just
Yeah.
spent an hour and 45 minutes yapping.
Well, that's also good.
Hopefully not, but yeah. Yeah, thank you for coming on tonight, and if somebody besides Bobby Wilson reached this in 1 times speed rather than Bobby listening in 1.5. Thank you for listening, and no thank you to the people who listened in more than 1 times speed. But yeah, good night, everybody, and thank you for listening.